We're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Inside.net. My name is Cecil Phillip. I'm really glad that you could join us today. And I'm joined with my co-host, Alan. Say hi,
Hey
Alan.
guys, hello, hello.
um, and I'm really happy that we have our special guest today because she's going to be talking to us about a topic that I don't think we've covered in our stream, and I don't think it's something that we talk about enough of. So definitely really interested to kind of learn more from her and kind of dive a little bit more into .NET feature flags. So Kiah, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself before we start, and maybe tell folks what do you do and a little bit about your .NET background. Did we lose her? I think we lost her.
Am I still here?
Uh-oh.
Can you hear us?
Listen, of course, like my internet starts acting funny as soon as we go live. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you, and we can see your screen moving up.
You're great, Kiah.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for having me on. My name is Kiah Tolliver. I am actually a developer advocate for Progress Chef. So DevOps tools, right? But I'm here on this .NET stream because I love .NET. Been a .NET developer for about a decade. And before I got into DevRel. And I'm really just itching to get back into .NET. So when you when there was like a call out on the DevRel channel about who's into .NET and who wants to be on this show, I was just like, yeah, I'm digging back into my roots, kind of getting back to the basics, and building some cool new things with .NET. And I'd love to share with you guys. I actually this topic is near and dear to my heart because I moonlight as a startup founder and wrote the first line of code of my company called C-Tracks. And we really found, as we were building and kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of our features for our product, that we really needed to utilize feature flags. And I'll kind of get deeper into that as we kind of go into the meat and potatoes of the presentation here. But I'm really happy to be here. And thanks, Cecil and Ilan, for having me. And let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Woo!
You know what? One of the things I love to do. So I'm nosy, right? And so
Sure.
I love to know about the backgrounds of the folks that we have. And I probably should have known this, but I had no idea that you were a founder and you've already you've started businesses and have done some of these types of things. And I think that's such an interesting thing to talk about because when I think about the developer muscle, right? The developer muscle is not always an entrepreneurial muscle, right? It's more of a problem solving muscle. How can I plug this stuff together? How can I learn these frameworks and these tools? And how can I express myself through code? But then when I find folks that are folks that are entrepreneurs and have started businesses and are co-founders and stuff like that, I always have to ask where did that energy come from? Right? What was the motivating factor for you to start doing something like that?
Oh, well, that is probably, I would have to say that's ingrained in the fibers of my being, honestly. Both of my parents are entrepreneurs. And so it's something that runs in, I guess, in my family. I've watched, my parents just, I guess, grind for my whole life, just, building something. My father came here to the United States from Barbados with nothing. And created entire, he owns a city block basically in Philadelphia.
Oh,
and
wow.
He's got a event venue, art gallery, and all of that stuff. And I watched him create that from nothing, from absolutely nothing. So, I mean, I could not just not be an entrepreneur. I think technology has been a vehicle to entrepreneurship for me.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I started C-Tracks, I'll give you this little backstory. I just knew that tech startups were It's going to be super easy. Like, I'll build this product. I was watching Dan Martell, I think it is. Like, he's one of the tech startup guys on YouTube. And he was like, yeah, you write your idea out on a napkin and you go and sell it to everybody. And then, Dan Martell, I mean, he doesn't look like me. So maybe that worked for him. But when I tried to do that, they were like, no.
People want to take napkins from us. It doesn't work like that.
They don't want to take napkins from us. They were like, you could have this napkin back. Like, give me a product and some customers. So we started building. Ctrax is actually a point of sale inventory management and customer relationship management software for CBD and cannabis dispensaries. So started that in 2018 after an awesome but very wild trip to Vegas, and realizing that folks didn't have real like tailored software for the nuances of the cannabis industry. So started building from there. Started building from there. I mean, like, I'm an open book, so any questions you have about it, feel free to stop me, because like it's been a grind. It has been a really awesome experience. Just building the first product, our V1. One of my investors, which is an old boss of mine, said, if you are satisfied with the first product that you released like way too late. So if anybody's listening who is interested in entrepreneurship, and especially like tech entrepreneurship, start before you're ready. Like, that's the only advice. That's the first piece of advice I have to give. So our V1 was very like premature. I don't even want to think about it. And I feel happy in like having that, because that was like the advice that I got. Like, if you are satisfied, you started too late. But V2 was absolutely satisfied with. And that's when we implemented our feature flags. And like, we started kind of branching out to different types of customers. We have like individual mom and pop shops. We've got franchises. We've got like,
oh wow,
everything in between,
Kiah.
So we had to. Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I was kind of curious. What exactly is it, V2 or V1?
Yeah, we're in V2 right now. Our Ctrax is in version 2.
Version 2, as in like the software?
Yep. So our version 1 was a web app. And so the thing about point of sale is that there's a lot of what are they like? There's like Bluetooth. You have to connect to Bluetooth, for instance, for like the actual point of sale readers, right? Mm-hmm. And that we realized in V1, like a web app wasn't going to be able to give a seamless experience. So our V2 is
mobile.
Yeah, we have an iOS app. Our backend is still on the web. Obviously, our admin portal, but we also have like it's multi-services. So we've got an API where it kind of ties everything together. And it's a little bit more complex, but it works for our customers. And yeah, like I actually did not build Ctrax in .NET. And I'll tell you why. And that's because like folks who like us who write .NET are very expensive. So I needed a team.
Yeah, very expensive.
So we use Laravel. And Laravel, like you could get folks that, are more affordable, yeah, for especially a startup budget.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair. I mean, the truth is the truth. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and you got to do what you got to do.
High value.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, thank goodness for that, right? Because, I mean, just being able to have technology open doors, financial doors in those ways are, That's definitely a plus. But yeah, had to use Laravel to write our backend because needed a team. And now, like, I'm not necessarily as I'm happy I did that because I'm not necessarily as a part of the day-to-day process as I was. And I'm happy to be able to turn over a lot of that technology to the team that I built.
Mhm.
And so I can pursue other things like DevRel and personal brand building and all that jazz. So
That's awesome.
When it
So
came
yeah.
to, oh,
no,
sorry.
you go ahead. No, you go
What?
ahead.
Okay, yeah. When it came to building your team, Kiah, what exactly did that process look like? Was it easy? Was it difficult? How was that for you?
Oh, it was difficult, and I'm gonna tell you why. The vision that I had when starting C-Trax was to have a team that didn't look like any team that I had ever been on because I've always been an only, and I'm sure that you know you all could probably relate, like being the only person of color on your team.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't want C-Trax to look like that. So what we did, we started looking in other places for offshore help. Started offshore, of course, but we started with a company called Andela. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with Andela. Andela is a consulting firm based out of the motherland,
Mm.
and so their mission was to empower people in Africa to just like we do change their financial circumstances through technology. And they would have a fellowship program where they would teach you from the very beginning, like from scratch. They would teach you uh, coding languages. Like, I mean, they had the DevOps track. They had PHP developers. They had like all different types of stacks, right? They had all different types of stacks, and I really enjoyed their presentation. What really got me was their mission because they were getting folks out of poverty and stuff like that. So we started with Andela, got our first few developers from Uganda, and so like they're the C-Trax UG crew. Shout out to the UG folks and Kampala. So yeah, we created that team. I mean, that ended up. I'll kind of go into like how we ended up not working with Andela anymore because like their mission changed. Essentially, their mission changed, and they did like the Thanos. They like cut
Really?
half of everybody, basically. Seriously, okay, so look, that was the perfect time for you to like exit.
Yeah.
Their mission changed. So instead of doing their fellowship program, they now were only focused on senior developers. So they were no longer now. And what I learned, because I kind of got close to the folks that I was working with, as you do with your teams, right? So I learned that, especially in Uganda, and I'm not sure about other places in Africa, but people, they have jobs where they work for, you know, decades. Like folks don't job hop like they do in the US. And when you say, hey, you know, hey, Natalie, want to be developer, um, you have to, I'll help you learn this technology and I'll help you become a developer, but you have to quit your job in order to come into this fellowship. And then you quit your job that you've had for however long, which has been sustaining your family for however long. You join this fellowship, and then a year later, their mission changes, and you get fired. And that, was devastating for a lot of people. And so what we did at that point was we tried to kind of try to pick up where Andela left off and tried to hire as many people as we could from, the, I guess, Andela, like, kill pile, if for lack of a better word. And So that's an ongoing process. Like we've got quite a few folks that we still are working with, and we're trying to like expand and get those folks, work elsewhere. So that was and then in addition to that, we brought on some cool folks from that are local, mostly coworkers, that we were like, hey, do you believe in this product? If you do, help. And that was really like a sales process too, because you kind of got to get people to believe in you to work for equity.
Yeah.
so so yeah, that was a roundabout answer, but it was not easy, but it's definitely been worth it, because as it sits, the C-Trax team looks like the team that I want it to look like. So I'm happy about that. And that just really, don't give me no business about you can't find diverse talent, because it's out here. You just got to look in the right places,
Yeah, it's about effort.
I agree.
Right? I think whatever it is that you want to do, if it's important for you, just like starting a business, it was important, right? Like you have to put in efforts to do the thing, right? So
absolutely.
If diversity is important to you, you have to put in the effort. It's easy, right? It's super simple. Like we as the industry make it sound like it's just such a hard thing to do. It's really not. It's just that actually really want to put in effort.
They don't want to go recruit at HBCUs. Like, that's a real easy way to do it. When you think about it,
It is. You just got to put in effort. You got to put in effort. So I remember you saying earlier in your introduction that you started like diving into feature flags when you were building your product, and as you were talking about it, I was like, okay, I don't know the details of your product yet, and from an architectural perspective, but as you're talking about it, I could be like, okay, yeah, I could start to formulate in my head, yeah, I could see why this would be important, right? Because you're talking about like there's a web interface and you have different things for mobile. And I'm sure, with a diverse collection of customers, there might be things that need to be turned on and turned off without like rewriting the whole app, right? Like you want to be able to dynamically do some of those things. So just as you were talking about it, I'm like, oh, okay, I could start to see how a business, particularly, like a medium to large size business might be like, okay, we need to be able to like react to these changes, or at least give the options of like tweaking the flow, right? So I definitely love to hear about like how your journey into feature flag started, and then maybe even like just kind of jump into some demos and see like what that kind of looks like for you.
Sure. So when we first started, C-Trax was like our main customer base, and most of the cannabis and CBD retail operations were startups, just like us, right? So we, they just had like single stores, single registers, and everything was pretty simple, right? And we catered to those customers. That was like the very first. That was V1, and then the first iteration of our V2 product, right? But then the CBD industry and the cannabis industry blew up, right? And these companies grew as a result of that, and they needed multiple registers. Say maybe they like have like a bud bar in their store, and then they might have like a delivery, especially like when COVID was happening, I guess there was a lot of folks who had like curbside delivery, and so and they may have had or curbside pickup, and then like they had delivery going so that they could still run their stores because everybody was shut down. So we had to implement multi-register. Now, multi-register is a different price point than single register, because that's just how these SaaS products work. And that was one of the first times we had to implement feature flags, right? So we needed to be able to say, okay, this is a single, this is a startup tier, for instance. And the startup tier has access to one register in one store. And then our enterprise tier would have the ability to have multiple registers in a single store, or multiple registers in multiple stores, right? As time went on, these companies either grew substantially or were acquired by larger enterprises, and as a result, the needs of our software grew, and we had to create a franchise tier. So at this point, like, we had not only multi-register, multi-store, but we needed to also have a way from the admin, from our backend admin portal, to aggregate all of the transactions that happen. You needed to be able to calculate what your franchise fees would be and all of that stuff, right? Like, you can do all of that in C-Tracks, and that's not a feature that a startup or even like an enterprise level customer would use per se. And that comes at a different price point as well. So all of those franchise features we had to have feature flags for as well. And then on top of that, we have a beta program where, like, our technically savvy, like really bleeding edge stores, like, or people who are willing to be have us experiment in their stores with some of their processes, they're able to like join into our beta program, and they have access to different features as well. So our beta features that we haven't rolled out yet, but we're testing, so we can do some A/B testing.
Kiah, I was just going to ask, could you explain what exactly a feature flag is?
Yes, absolutely. Oops, sorry.
Thank you so much.
Feature flags are a way to restrict or release features to certain segments of customers. And that basically allow us, like, you can basically toggle on features. You build once, you build you build your code base one time, or you build a feature one time, and you can like add a feature flag and toggle on the feature to whom you want to have it released to, and then toggle it off for folks that you don't want to have it released to. And it makes like your release management so much easier for multiple different reasons, because the scenario that I talked about prior to your question, and also say you have a feature that isn't going to make it, like, or say you have a feature that has a bug, right? Instead of having to release that feature, or instead of having to like re-release and like redeploy and all of that stuff, you're able to
just switch it off.
Switch it off.
The thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And nobody is the wiser. So you're able to react pretty quickly. Yeah, you're able to react pretty quickly to any issues that happen in your code base. And that's like one of the biggest use cases for most folks, because you release a canary, you have a few people use it, say there's a bug, turn that baby back off.
Boom.
It's no longer a problem. Say less. There's a bug, say less.
Is this common? Are feature flags common in the industry? Like, Cecil, do you know, like, if it's in .NET?
Yeah, it's common, and it's it's almost like it's like a pattern, right? And then obviously we have like frameworks and tools that support the pattern, but it's not like a .NET specific thing or Ruby or Java specific thing. Excuse me. Like I've seen it implemented on different levels, right? Because really, okay, we're just talking about turning stuff on and off, right? I've seen it on the CI/CD DevOps pipeline, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like, okay, I'm going to enable these sets of features for like this, I don't know, this DevOps pipeline, you know what I mean? So like all the stuff going into the staging environment looks this way. Or I've seen people that have environments based on location. So like, hey, maybe I'm a multinational company and I have different versions of my software that go for people in Canada and then in the United States and in Europe for whatever political reasons. Like there's tweaks to them. So it's like, okay, well, turn on this and turn off that stuff for this region of customer, right? And turn on and turn on this for this region. So again, and it's almost like it's a safety net. It's a it's a beta control thing. Like, hey, do I want to turn on this beta feature or not? You know what I mean? Like it gives you the option of, again, like switching stuff on and off. Which
that
again,
sounds so convenient.
I've seen it run on different levels.
It is very convenient, and yes, there are multiple different use cases. They enable you to allow features for certain segments of users. They allow A/B testing to where, like, when we get into the demo, you will even be able to see how you can use filters to where you can have 50% of your users using a feature. You can set the feature to 50, and then like essentially every other user is going to be using your feature, but not 100% of your users. So that's so really cool. Good for A/B testing. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. It's and then you can add it into your CI/CD pipeline. I personally am playing with Azure because I'm an AWS girl. Like C-Trex is on AWS. All of my experience is AWS, but I'm kind of, I'm moving into like trying to play with Azure since, like I said, I'm really getting back into the .NET side of things. So I wanted to, play with Azure, and Azure App Config actually has a way to manage these feature flags. And that's one of the things we'll kind of talk about later in the demo as well. I think this might be a good time to get into the demo. What do you all think?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So awesome.
Roll out that demo.
I love demos, as you can tell. And we all love demos. I'm going to bring up your screen now, and then, let's go ahead and dive into it. All right. So we see a config app.json.
You see my app settings. Okay. So what you're looking at here is a pretty simple web app, ASP.NET Core. And what we've got here is our home controller. I'll kind of like go through all of the pieces that you need. Like we're going to be using, in this demo, we're going to be using the .NET Core feature management feature. And basically what I want to really stress here is the fact that feature flags are basically an if statement. The code inside the conditional statements are toggled on and off based on, what your feature flag is set to, whether it's enabled or disabled. And the .NET Core Feature Manager is configured from the framework's native configuration system. So as a result, you can define your application's feature flag settings by using any configuration source that .NET Core supports, including your local app settings.json file, which is what we have here. And you can also set up your these configurations in Azure App Config, which I have in a subsequent semi demo that we'll go through a little bit later.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about this is the fact that, like, I could start local for free if I wanted to, right? And I point it at a file, and I could say true or false to the file.
Yes.
And if I wanted to, if I had like a multi-instance application, we can point them all to the same configuration in the cloud. So at least then I'm not like, okay, I got to change it here, and I got to change it here, and I got to change it here. We could change it in the central place, and now all of these instances just kind of pick that up, right? Now we're good to go.
Yep, absolutely.
Kiah, so would the methods that say view data, would that be considered the toggle?
So the feature management block here is where the toggles are.
Okay.
Yep. So we have two features that we'll be playing with. There'll be mobile review and mobile detail review. And these are both set to true currently, but we'll play with it. I'll kind of show you how we have it implemented. But yeah, these are the two features that we've got set.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Okay, you start off. You definitely need to have a dependency on the Microsoft Feature Management, ASP.NET Core in this case. So you need that NuGet package. Make sure you've got it. I need to update some of mine, but I'm not going to do it right now because I don't know if anything will break. But so when you pull in that package, you'll have access to all the feature management tools. And okay, let's dig into our controller piece here. So we use dependency injection to access the iFeature Manager. That's going to be from the iFeature or the Microsoft Feature Management package, right? And we use that in our controller to define feature flags, and we have them defined as enums. And I'll show you that.
Yeah, and then while you're doing that, I'm actually going to pull up the package, right? Just so that folks know, I'm going to pull up on the screen really quick. So the package that you want is this one, right? So like you said, Microsoft.
Feature management.
You can head over to nuget.org and you can pick that up.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Okay, so we've got our enums, or what we got, our feature flags defined as enums. And then we can use we can reference them in code, right? So in our home controller, we've got a few ways to manage this, right? We have in our index method, we have a call to ask if basically the mobile review feature is enabled, and the view data from this particular, if it is enabled, our view data will have our mobile review application on our home screen, right? And I'll show that, because if it's not enabled, it will just say welcome. And let me disable this in the back end, so that way, because we have two here, we're focusing on our home controller on mobile review. I'm going to make that false and spin it up.
And so now you just disable that feature, right? So now when you run the application, anything that's associated with that should just not be enabled.
Should just not be there. So you'll see view data and it'll just say welcome. It won't say anything about mobile review. But one of the lovely things that I love about, just being able to handle feature flags in the app settings.json is the fact that you can do these things on the fly. Like, you don't have to rebuild the application in order to make these changes. So let's see.
Oh, so then you're saying if I just change the file on my machine or whatever the case, it will just reload it and it will just say, oh, hey, the file's changed. And I'm just going to react to it. Like, I don't have to reboot anything.
Right. You have to refresh your screen and that's it.
Okay, awesome.
So let's see.
Is it still loading?
Do you see it? Hold on.
I don't. I mean, I still see your IDE. Did you share the window, or did you just share the
thought I
desktop.
shared the window. Let me stop sharing.
Yeah, sometimes it only shares like one window at a time.
Yeah, you got to share the whole desktop, because if you just share the window and you open another window, like a browser, which is a separate window,
Yeah.
we're not going to see the browser. So you got to share the entire desktop.
Oh, okay. All right,
Yeah.
hold on.
If you got stuff on your desktop, you don't want us to see it. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why I'm
Okay.
sharing the window.
Yeah, that's why I shared the window. But let me let me do better. Hold on.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But while you're doing that, yeah, I'm a big fan of feature flags. I mean, I know particularly when folks are building new features, or like things that haven't been released to the public, but still you still have to like push updates for existing features. It's like, okay, well, we're still working on this, but we're gonna hide this section from you while we still work on it, right? So like we turn the feature off for the public API or the public package, and then internally we can kind of hide that part and keep working on it. So yeah, I'm a big fan of using feature flags. I think the only thing that I would say is that like the management of them. Obviously, the more flags we have, like the management of them becomes challenging, and then
It does.
it's also one of those things that you don't want to keep in your code. You know what I mean? It's like a temporary thing. You know what I mean? Because like after you've built the feature, then you don't need the flag anymore. You know what I mean? So now you can remove the feature flag. Um, Unless again it's a case of, hey, well, I have specific use cases for certain places, but most of the time you're not gonna have like an application littered with like hundreds of feature flags. At that point, then you need to like rethink about your life decisions.
Build it into the code base.
Yeah,
Right.
you gotta start
Exactly at that
rethinking about
point.
what's really what's really important in terms of like the asset management of what you're writing.
So in order
For some
to
reason.
so I was just gonna say, in order to enable the feature flags, you just need that NuGet package feature management.
Yeah, for .NET, you just add the package.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure there's some ad services DI thing that she do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to you make sure that you add it into your program.cs. You gotta like
Yeah, your the iService collection thing where you have to like when you do like add
Yeah.
MVC, add this.
Yeah,
add
yeah, yeah.
Yep,
You
exactly.
gotta add it. But then after that, then now you just have like those types that Kiah was showing with like feature manager or whatever the case is. Now you just kind of like add the thing to the screen.
Yeah. Kiah, what were you gonna say?
I think I'm sharing my screen now and it looks good. So
Okay. So we got your
all
screen.
right. Okay, cool. Okay, so you guys can see. So cool.
Mhm.
All right. So you see how this is our basically just our home screen here. And I wish I could share both. Can I not share?
I mean, like I'm saying, you'd have to share
I could share my whole
the screen, and then you'd have to like toggle. You'd have to like alt tab between them. Yeah, that'd be the only.
window, the whole entire screen.
Yeah, you gotta
Okay,
share
I
the
see.
whole screen and not just the window, and then alt tab between
I see.
your browser and the IDE or whatever it is that you want to share.
All right, cool. I got it. That makes sense.
Yeah, and while looks like we got a question coming in from Junior Felix over on LinkedIn, saying they could also give us advantages that we can enable or disable features at runtime. Yeah, so I think that's exactly one of the things that Kiah was talking about. Like you can go into the source of configuration, whether that's like your app settings JSON file or something in outer space like Azure Config Manager, and then change the settings, and then your app should reload, right? Like the configuration manager see the change, it should reload, and so now the next time you try to go down that path, right? Like I don't know, like you reload your browser or you go back to the view on your mobile app, it'll be like, oh, okay, this is turned off now. We can't see it anymore, right? And then now your code will be able to react to that future change.
Exactly. Okay, so I think I'm sharing my entire screen now.
Yeah, so we got your screen.
All right, so okay, so here's my home page. What I will do, okay, so we had to make sure in order to use the feature flags on our views, we had to add that tag helper, Microsoft Feature Management ASP or ASP.NET Core into our view imports.cshtml.
Yeah.
That allows us to be able to use feature flags in the view. So in this particular case, this will be our home page. Oh, this is actually not the right one. Oh, okay. This is actually managed here. So in our index, you see how we have our view data as just our welcome versus like the mobile review piece that you would have. So let me show you what it looks like when we do have our mobile review feature enabled. Our view data will change. So you notice I'm not doing anything like in code other than changing this feature toggle to true, which is enabling that feature, mobile review feature, and then I'll just refresh my screen. So you see our view data changes from welcome to welcome mobile review application. That's simple. We didn't have to stop anything. We didn't have to rebuild anything. So in real life, you can make change. You can update things on the fly pretty easily, right? So it's also in addition to that. So we have our home controller, but we also have a mobile controller, which we are able to enable the feature gate setting. And what that does is basically it blocks even being able to access this controller based on the feature enabled. So in this case, if you can see, the entire mobile controller is blocked. There's a feature gate for mobile review. You're not able to get into the mobile review. You're not able to access the mobile review controller without this feature enabled, right? Oops. So when I click mobile reviews, since I do have the feature enabled, you're able to see my dummy data that I've got. So we've got different devices with their specifications. And shout out to Pro Code Guide for this sample app that I was able to just go on ahead and modify for my use case here. Just wanted to shamelessly plug him. Right. And in this particular case, so we've got another feature I would like to point out. In our mobile controller, we have both. You can manage access at the controller level, and you can also manage access at the method level, right? So if you have the mobile review feature enabled, you're able to access this page. But the other feature that we have here is the mobile detail view, which basically gives us details on all of our devices. And this, the feature gate attribute is utilized here at the method level. So that way, like, you would not be able to access that method. So I will go ahead here and enable the mobile detail review feature from the app settings. So let's put true here, save it. And from here, when I refresh, you should see the review details. So now you can see your mobile detail view.
Nice. So like that was different from like the last one, because before you were showing us just like the header, but then now there's a whole column of the table. Like there's a whole section of a data set that you're like, okay, you can see the data, but not this part of the data, which is very different from saying you can't see the header. You know what I mean? That's those are completely different use cases, and I'm glad you showed that, because I'm sure if you plug it into something like authentication and authorization or something like that, I can now say something like, hey, if you don't have this role, then you won't see this column of information, or you won't see this button, or you won't see certain things, like you don't have the permission to see it. But then I can have like let's say we call it like my beta testers feature, right? And so I'm showing my beta testers like a whole different set of features that are enabled for them based on like their role. So like now I can not only dynamically enable or disable the features, but like based on who you are, I can also do that as well, right? I could be like, okay, well, Alon's gonna get a feature, and Kiah's gonna get a feature, and Rodney's gonna get a feature, but they're all different based on like a toggle that I might have based on based on my if statements, right?
Yep, absolutely. So one of the things that is gonna like set this off, and one of the things you'll be able to implement in your real world applications that is really awesome, in my opinion, because you're not really going to go into your app settings.json and toggle these on and off manually, right?
Yeah.
But you can add this into your CI/CD pipeline by using Azure App Config. I know we only have a few minutes left, but I at least want to go through how you would set that up in Azure App Config.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah. So let me bring up my other screen here. I'll put this onto my other screen here.
Yeah. And then while you're doing that, so you've shown us so far just how you could do it locally. Like everything you've shown us is local. It's been in a file, it's in the same project. But then now what you're going to show us is how we can do it like in outer space, right? Like someone else, some other service. And I'm going to assume that service has like, tiers that we could pay for or not. But again, it's about how do we scale feature management, right? How do we turn it from just like a single app to like a bigger thing, right? That I can do across like different applications and different products.
Absolutely. Because this is what you're going to be doing in the real world, guys. Like you're not going to be managing your features and your app settings.json, but you can make sure that they work locally, but you're gonna, in any real scenario, you're probably gonna have this embedded in your CI/CD pipeline, and you'll be able to make sure that these things are done properly without having to dig into your code, because who wants to do that in production, right? So what we're going to go to is app config.
And then could you control plus that a couple of times, because that's the text.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, that should be good. There we go.
So the service that we're focusing on in this case are Azure App Config. And what we would do in this scenario, I've got one created, but let's go ahead and create a new a new configuration, and we're gonna call this. I have a resource group already enabled, but it's called feature flag demo. But I'll call this demo 1. Okay, and then we're going to just create it. And then from here, all right, we've got our app config created, right? And then we will have our feature manager. And let's see, let's create a new feature flag that maps to our mobile detail. Let's see, mobile review and mobile detail review. I just want to make sure that I got it right. you might not have enough time to run this, but I want to make sure that I at least give you all the pieces that you need.
Yeah, at least to see the setup.
Yeah, so
Great idea.
mobile review. Oops. Okay.
Yeah. So like what you're doing now is like you're going into Azure and you're creating an instance of that service, right? Like that app config service.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So yep, went into Azure, created, yep, an app config.
And then I guess you gotta hit that
service.
enable feature flag thing at the top.
You can. That makes it so that it is automatically enabled, but you can enable it from the on the fly here
Really?
as
You don't
well.
have to. Okay.
Yep. So you don't have to. And then I'll do one for mobile detail review.
Okay. Kiah, how has the learning curve been when it comes to working with Azure versus AWS?
So it's very similar.
Okay.
But so like the difference is really more so the UI. I mean, if you're working, if you're working in code, if you're working programmatically, like things are very similar.
Yeah.
But when you're working in the GUI, it's just like, oh, okay, how does this work? But I'm really into Azure, and I'm like, all right, let's figure it out. I shied away from it, and then I got forced into cloud with AWS, and I was like, all right, well, let me backtrack and get back to the basics.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, what you're going to do, so we've got our feature flags. Oh wait, let's see. We've got our feature flags. I know I moved that out. Hold on. App config. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
You're fine.
So what we're gonna do?
No, go ahead.
So what we'll need to do in this particular situation is get the reason I took this off was because I'm going to show you where to find this, but I don't want all of my secrets.
Yeah, you don't need the secrets. Don't need the secrets.
Yeah, I don't want my
secrets for a reason.
Exactly. Even though this is a demo, but still. App config. You'll go into this resource group settings in order to get all of these. Oops. Okay, hold on. All right. So we added our tags. Where are we getting our connection strings? Let's see. Let me make sure.
So you're looking for the connection thing for the for
the service. Yeah. That's the thing that I am. That's the part where it's like difficult.
Instance, right? Like go back to the instance, like that thing, and then there's usually like the sidebar on the left, but I don't see it.
Right, I don't see it either. So that's where I'm kind of like
maximize your window because it might be like a.
Here we go. So then configuration. That's not it. Access keys. Boom.
Yeah. There we go.
Go to your access keys. Oh, okay, cool. So everything is blocked out.
That's good. Connection string is like dotted, right?
So so your connection string is going to be right here. And this is what you're going to add into your app settings.json to connect to your app config.
Got it.
So let me just at least show you where you put it and how you wire things up. All right. So okay, so in this case, I've got the app config connection string queued up, or it's here. And then in the program.cs, you add this connection strings to get to your app config, and then you utilize, so this block of code configures your feature flags based on your Azure app configuration settings. So in this case, for instance, I have my feature flags are labeled demo. And I'll show you from the Azure side how I was able to get those properly labeled. Oh, I've got to do it full screen in order for it to work for me. Okay. So I've got a label for demo for these. So I'm pulling in all of my feature flags that have a demo label, and I'm making sure they're only cached for like 45 seconds. And so that way, you know, if I do change them on the fly in my config settings, that can update within the 45-second window. And then essentially you keep the same settings that you had in the feature management tool before. And then you are able to, from that point, just run like you would otherwise, like we did in our local environment. So basically, it's just setting up the app config file in your program.cs. I'm using .NET 7, so I'm not using a startup.cs file, but you configure that app config to make sure, or configure your app to make sure that it pulls the feature flags from your app config file, and you can manage them on the fly in Azure App Config. So that way you don't even have to worry about doing like anything in your actual code base. So this is all outside of your code base. This is all in the cloud, and you can manage this based on your CI/CD settings and put that into your CI/CD pipeline to make it set it and forget it, and that makes things a lot easier for you.
Nice. This is a really good overview about like how to plug that stuff together. Like I've used feature flag management in ASP.NET specifically because I've used it in other companies, not in .NET, but like for .NET specifically. I've only ever used like the file-based configuration switch. You know what I mean? So like to be able to see how you plug it into Azure and set it up with the Azure app configuration.
Yes.
This was definitely very helpful for sure.
Yeah, I'm happy to have been able to be helpful. I do have like a little bit more detail that I would love to for folks to be able to go into if they want to. Yeah. I have some slides on the topic and a little bit more resources where that's concerned, and I have a QR code that folks can scan. Give me a moment.
That's smart.
Yep. So you'll be able to get to the resources page in this app or in this file using this.
Wait, yeah, just pull it up, and then any other resources too that you think might be helpful for folks. Your repo, your GitHub name, your Twitter links and stuff like that. Like anything that you think would be good for folks to be like, hey, I wanna learn more from Kiah. I want to see how she's doing this feature flag thing. I want to kind of understand like how this plugs into like configuration and .NET stuff. Like any of that would be super.
Yes, absolutely. So if you scan this, you'll get to this resource page. This has like the sample app on GitHub that you can play around with. Getting started with, there's an article to get started with .NET Core feature management libraries, and then an article to get set up with Azure App Config, and this deck, which is actually the entire the QR code maps the entire deck, but it has all of my social information. I'm Black Girl CTO on everything. Now, I will tell you this. if we want to keep it SFW, find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. On my LinkedIn, let me give you my LinkedIn. I'll post that here because my Instagram kind of can get interesting. That's where I have all my shenanigans. Look, don't judge me for what you might see on my Instagram.
If you let them shenan once, they will shenan again.
They will shenan again. Amen. Amen. Okay. Ooh. All right. Real quick. I know we gotta go.
No, thank you, Sam. No rush. I'm not rushing you.
I think this is my link for LinkedIn.
Okay.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not my LinkedIn link. Damn. Well, you can find it on. I'll put it on the deck because everybody's got the QR code for the deck. But please, I did send my my Twitter information over. So if you could put that on the screen, that would be awesome. Because I would love for folks to follow your girl on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. I dropped it in the chat just now for everyone that's watching us live right now, and I'm also gonna pull it up on the screen. So here it is on the over here, bottom screen.
Boom. There we go.
So yeah, if folks are interested, definitely go ahead and follow Kiah on her social on Twitter, and yeah, and then we have that QR code thing. So if you're here and you need the QR code, just rewind about like a minute, you'll see it on the screen, and then you can scan it in your phone or your devices and like be able to get the deck with all the information on it.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate, the opportunity to be on and to share some knowledge about feature flags and like my struggles with growing a startup and how feature flags helped. And yeah, I'm an open book. So anybody who has questions, please feel free to ask. Ping me on any of the socials and whatnot. And I really appreciate being able to have this opportunity. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Kiah. Appreciate it. And thank all of you for
Kiah.
watching. This has been another episode of Inside.net where we talk about cool things and have a lot of our amazing community members like Kiah. So today we talked about feature flag management. Make sure you tune in, like and subscribe to the video. Check out our channel because we're going to have some more amazing guests coming on talking about a lot of fun things in the world of .NET. So again, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time. All right, bye everybody.
Bye.